Hour having arrived 39 minutes ago, I'm going to call the Monday, June 13th, 2022 meeting of the Administration and Public Works Committee to order. My name is Jonathan Newsma, chairing the committee tonight. I represent the 4th Ward. And we do have Councilmember Reed online. Councilmember Burns and Newsma are in person here. So let's, for the record, take a roll call.
Councilmember Kelly, Councilmember Braithwaite, Councilmember Newsma.
Here.
Councilmember Burns.
Here.
Councilmember Reed.
Here.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. If Councilmember Burns would like to make a motion.
Move approval of the minutes from, where is it? I don't have
May 23rd.
Yeah, May 23rd, APW meeting.
Councilmember Reed, do you second?
Yes, second.
All right. I guess we need to take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Newsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Councilmember Reed.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was unmuted. I said aye.
There we go. 3 ayes. Ayes have it. And on to public comment. Director Stonebeck, we have 2 people signed up for public comment.
Yes. No, sorry. Clark McCarthy.
Mr. McCarthy, you'll decline?
And then Jim Janasek.
Yeah, Mr. Janasek was here, and he declined as well. All right, so, yeah, well, let's move on then to item A1.
Consent agenda, right? Isn't it?
Or to the consent agenda. If somebody would like to move the consent agenda, which consists of items A1 through A6.
Yep.
Go
Go ahead.
My apologies, is the truck route item, did that come back to committee or is that going straight to council this evening?
Truck route is item A8, which is not on consent.
Outside of okay, yeah, I move the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none. Director Stonebeck, if you will take the roll.
Councilmember Newsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Very good. Items for consideration then, the first of which is item A7. This is Resolution 41-R-22, authorizing the city clerk to sign an Illinois Department of Transportation resolution for improvement under the Illinois Highway Code for improvements to Poplar Avenue from Colfax Street to Livingston Street. If somebody would like to make a motion on this, this is a resolution for action.
So moved.
Second.
Do any committee members wish to discuss this item? If not, the chair will recognize Councilmember Revelle, in whose ward this street exists, to hear any concerns that she might have.
Good evening, committee. Well, my understanding is that this is, the resolution is simply saying that we want to accept the funding. It doesn't commit us to any one particular design of the street and parking, because I do have concerns that I've been hearing about from my residents so there does need to be continued discussion about how we're going to handle the parking for the residents.
Your statement is correct that this does not commit to the construction. It is only committing us to allowing us to use the Rebuild Illinois funds. Mm-hmm. The project is out for bid right now, though, under a specific design. Mm-hmm. So if there's going to be modifications, that would have to be done probably by change order after award, although Engineer Biggs can respond.
So far, I'm sorry, my name is Laura Biggs. I'm the city engineer. So we have been in contact with Councilmember Revelle, and so far it appears that the modifications are likely to be related to the striping plan. which is something readily changed with or without change order, usually later in the project.
That makes sense, yes.
Yeah, so I would recommend that we go ahead and pursue the funding, and I expect to continue to work with staff and the residents to make sure we come up with a plan that meets everybody's concerns and goals.
If Councilmember Ravel is comfortable with it, I am too. And if there's any further discussion, let me know. If not, I will call the roll.
Councilmember Nusma?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to item A8, this is the truck route issue. I'm sorry. Yes, sorry, this is the truck route issue. Staff has recommended that we table this item until July 11th, pending further discussion between Councilmember Hadakatis, Councilmember Reed, and myself. Councilmember Reed, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this version of it just may as well, pass away here. And, we can come back with whatever the agreement is there. I'm also curious, I don't remember if this went through referrals or not.
No, this did not go through referrals. It's a recommendation by staff because of a dangerous situation that occurs.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the situation. So because this is a policy change, one, I think it needs to go through referrals, and we can bring back whatever the new version is. So, I mean, staff can keep this as a template, but I think the referral can be made for whatever it is we actually want to do.
Now, the item is on our agenda now, so it's through the process, and it's up to
Yeah, and
us to
our rules
consider.
say that
You could vote.
our rules say that it shouldn't be or shouldn't have appeared
Right.
on the agenda.
It is on the agenda here, so I am comfortable.
Then I move that we do not approve. I move dismissal of this.
Well, let me just clarify what we would be voting on here. Director Stonebeck, if you could clarify what the proposed ordinance is suggesting?
The proposed ordinance would make a truck route on Howard Street and Custer.
Right, and this is subsequent to this being drafted. We had some discussions about some direct communication to interested parties, informing them of their rights under existing city code, which would not require any change to ordinance.
That is correct.
Okay, so we could still have that discussion and vote this ordinance down right now.
Yes.
If we wanted to bring this proposed ordinance back, we could do that at some point.
A modified ordinance
Right.
could come back, yes.
Okay. I would prefer at this point to leave all options on the table until we have a decision rather than just vote this one down now. But Councilmember Reed has made the motion to disapprove this one.
Not approve.
I think he actually said dismissal,
Yeah.
and I will concur with that. This is a policy change. And the way our referrals committee works, if it's an urgent matter, we have an opportunity to express that, and then it's expedited. The referrals committee makes sure, it recommends it appear on the next APW meeting or any other committee meeting. So I will second the dismissal.
I mean, this has been on our agenda now for, I think, the third time. So it's here. Let's deal with it. If you guys want to vote it down, then we can pick it up through the alternative methods.
I'm fine either or. I'm just saying his motion was a dismissal, so I will second that motion.
Okay. Any other discussion on this? In which case, I will call the roll.
And this is a roll to dismiss the ordinance, is that correct?
Correct.
And I will, if Councilmember Reed doesn't, I will put it through the referral process myself if it's an issue. So it won't matter in terms of,
Well, if we resolve,
Scheduling.
if we resolve this in the alternative manner, which doesn't involve any ordinance changes whatsoever, it doesn't need to go through referrals.
correct. That's my interpretation.
Right, but we're not yet ready to do that because council members Reed and Hadakaitis and I have not yet resolved the issue to our mutual satisfaction. So there's a motion on the table to dismiss item A8, which is ordinance 16-0-22. It's been properly moved and seconded. I will ask Dave to call the roll.
Councilmember Nusma.
No.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Okay, ordinance 16-0-22 has been dismissed. Item A8 will not be on the council agenda for this evening. Which brings us to item A9. This is ordinance 30-0-22, amending city code sections 10-1-3 and section 10-4, creating a commercial vehicle permit pilot program. There have been a number of discussions on this issue after the draft ordinance, which appears in the packet, was released. I'll ask staff to kind of summarize your understanding of these discussions, and ultimately, I think what we'd like to do is have this come back to this committee at our next meeting.
Certainly. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Dr. Stombeck, looked at our acting parking manager. So in front of us is the ordinance, which I know we want to amend right now after discussion with everybody. So we'll try to. I try to summarize the amendments, which we would like, which council would like to see in this ordinance. So we'll try to strike out the passenger plates and FP plates. So they will not follow under purview of the commercial vehicle. If somebody have a marking on the passenger plate, we'll have to still require the permit, but the permit will be free. And for the B plates, we'll try to issue the pilot of the 150 permits citywide for pickup trucks, full-size vans, and minivans. And for the cost of, I know there was some proposal for $350 per year, but I know right now those talking about maybe decrease that payment. So I'm just waiting for the directions. Those I think that's the best I could summarize right now. What I heard is the will of the committee.
Right, and so just to read it back to you, for a passenger vehicle with markings on the side,
Yes.
they would be eligible to apply for a permit
Yes,
at zero cost.
that's correct.
For an FP vehicle with markings on the side, they would be able to apply for a permit at zero cost.
That's correct.
If it's an FP vehicle with no markings, like a rental car,
There's no need for applying.
there's no need to apply for anything, even though it's free. For a B plate, if it's a pickup truck or a van or a minivan with markings, they would have to apply,
Yes.
pay the fee, maybe it's $350.
It's up to the committee to decide.
If it's a pickup truck with no markings, used as a regular, ordinary, everyday vehicle, and not as a commercial vehicle, could that be parked on the street overnight?
So, by staff recommendation, no, because we have 1,000 vehicles who are registered with the B plate, and under current code, this is the gray area in the state of Illinois, the pickup trucks, because they can be used for hauling, so that's why they have a B plate, they don't have the passenger plate, even when they're used for the personal use. If the committee wish to ground the vehicles which are B plate, but for the personal use, we can do so. However, I just want to remind everybody that's 1,000 vehicles, which right now might be parked on the street or might not. We enforce as much as possible, but obviously, there's 1,000 vehicles right now, which you might see seek the parking and the permit for.
So technically, unmarked pickup trucks are not allowed to park on the street.
Under current ordinance, yes.
Point,
They
point
should-
of, point of information on that.
Although some do, and we're just not ticketing them.
That's correct, and this is
No,
the, this is
it's
the.
point of-
Just,
This is the very common issue for all the neighborhoods in here. We're not only one who restricted the B plates in the overnight parking. Every municipality around us do exactly the same. And yes, sometimes people parked and don't get tickets. Some people are parked. It's all about your neighbors. If somebody call for enforcement, like everything else. City of Chicago is very strict about this. Other suburbs are. Like I say, it all depends what the manpower is to enforce this, because this only applies from the 9 p.m. to 6 or 5 a.m. in the morning. So that's the window when you can enforce this ordinance.
thank you. Councilmember Reed.
Yeah, I just wanted to get a point of information in. Under our current ordinance, under our current ordinance, it says that a commercial vehicle is defined in accordance with the Illinois statute on commercial vehicles. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the current statute on vehicles and commercial vehicles does not state that a B plate is considered a commercial vehicle, correct?
It's
Or maybe I can have our legal counsel
Yeah,
answer that. Michelle?
Deputy City Attorney Michelle Ozuribo. What was your question, Councilmember?
Okay, so in our code, under definitions of commercial vehicle, our current code defines a commercial vehicle as, in accordance with state law. And let me actually, if you go down to 10453, 10453, parking of commercial vehicles and buses in residential areas, it says,
Councilmember Reed, in the interest of time, if you could just cut to the chase, where are we heading here?
well, what I'm saying is that currently B plates are allowed to park on our streets and should not be ticketed, as the current code stands.
Well, I always know the pickup trucks coming out as a B plate, and they can be used for the personal use, but also
Well,
the B.
if I can just interrupt
Yes, of
for
course.
time, and if Michelle can just confirm this, that our code says that a commercial vehicle is defined as it's defined in the Illinois Vehicle Code, and the Illinois Vehicle Code defines a commercial vehicle as a vehicle weighing over 10,001 pounds. And, there's a bunch of farm stuff that's also included in that ordinance, but nowhere does, or in that statute, nowhere does it say that a B plate is considered a commercial vehicle, or, a 6,000-pound a pickup truck under the Illinois Vehicle Code is not a commercial vehicle.
It's business plate. And also the same plate applied to the cargo vans and to the other vehicles. There's no separate plate for the pickup trucks. They all fall under one umbrella of the B plate.
Does B plate stand for business plate, or is B plate based on the weight?
It's based on the weight, but some people say B plate as a business plate. The old
But it's under law, it's not a business plate.
So the old style of the license plate will say in the side, the business plate. I'm just saying and I understand that this is the hot topic issue about the pickup trucks, but maybe state of Illinois should have the separate license for the pickup trucks. But right now, currently, all of them fall under one umbrella. So if you have the cargo van, who's strictly for commercial vehicle use, have a B plate the same as a pickup truck who's meant for hauling, and it can be used for the personal use, but it's meant for hauling because you have an open bed in the back.
And Chair, I think what Councilman Reed is saying, and I'm looking forward to knowing Councilor Zaribo's interpretation, is that we could prohibit B plates, but we currently don't. Not in the way our code is currently written. That's cutting it to the chase. So we'd have to write that into it, and that's up for us to decide if we want to do it.
I think our intent here is to, I'll just say it for the record, not take away anybody's rights that they're currently enjoying, but merely expand the opportunity for folks to park on the street who don't currently enjoy that right. Where we're hung up here is on the issue of unmarked pickup trucks. Are they or are they not allowed to park on the street under current city code?
And Council Cummings.
Staff is saying no, although we don't enforce it.
Well, hold, our law department hasn't chimed in on that yet.
And I think really what staff is saying is this has been our practice to do it. The question is it in the code?
And how Illinois law defines commercial vehicle doesn't have to align congruently with how city code defines a commercial vehicle. But
So we could write it in.
we could write that in. And so what we're trying to do here is give staff direction to write into the ordinance so that when it comes back to us next time, we can finalize this discussion, which we've already had now 3 or 4 times in this forum. My intent, my desire is to have one more whack at this pinata and move it out of this committee at our next meeting.
here-
So let's
I'll-
make sure we're giving
then-
firm direction.
And then I have very firm direction. I
Okay.
have a draft that I sent to everyone earlier. I move that we amend the language to reflect that draft.
You want to go over it quickly?
Yeah, the draft would change the definition of a commercial vehicle to any vehicle operated for the transportation of persons or property in the furtherance of any commercial or industrial enterprise for hire or not for hire, excluding a commuter van or a recreational vehicle not being used commercially. Period. All Illinois registered vehicles with a Class C through Class Z license plate, which is 8,001 pounds or more, or trailer licenses, recreational trailer licenses, will be considered commercial vehicles, as well as any vehicle that has any commercial markings or attachments. Passenger vehicles with only a rideshare sticker affixed to it in to its front or back window are not considered commercial vehicles. So that'd be the definition of commercial vehicles. And then separately, this would split out the portion regarding the pilot program into a resolution and not into code. And there are a few changes there as well that were mostly reflected by what Mr. Tatar
And who
said.
would be eligible for a permit? Let's establish that.
Okay.
That's important.
Yeah. Who would be eligible for a permit would be vehicles under 8,001 pounds, so that's that Class B, and I believe also C, but certainly Class B and passenger and FP vehicles would all fall under that. So vehicles under 8,001 pounds who are not, or who are designated as commercial but do not have any attachments. So if you have a pickup truck and it's 6,000 pounds, it's kind of a standard pickup. You have a sign on the side that says, blah, blah, blah's landscaping, and that's all you have there. You're fine to apply for this permit. The commercial vehicle permit.
Councilman Reed, just to be clear,
Yeah.
those 8,000, lower than 8,001 pounds, with no markings, would
Are
not
perfectly
require a
fine to
permit.
park on the
Exactly. I just
street.
want to make that
Yeah.
clear.
Without
what's
the
being
permit,
proposed.
without needing a permit.
Without needing a permit, yeah.
And then, there will be 150 permits as opposed to 200 in this reflection. That's it. That's the major changes.
If I could suggest we just offer that feedback to staff outside of a formal motion, allow them to incorporate that, share a draft with us in time for it to appear on our next agenda, because you've made some motions. We still haven't talked about the price tag. We still haven't talked about the number of vehicles. So
I would prefer a motion, just because I wrote the language and I made the edits based on the feedback here, and so I think staff.
But there have been subsequent discussions after you made that motion, or after you put that in writing. So either way, the feedback is going to get to, staff. But you've made the
I
motion.
think, I'd like to make the motion. I think we can still have
But
other feedback.
Your motion includes some stuff that we haven't yet talked about, so I'd like to do that.
Well, let's maybe talk
I'd
about
like
it
to do
first,
that
and then
now.
if there's something I can amend.
Right, so let's talk about the price tag. $350 is what is currently proposed. What's the feeling of the committee on that?
I support it.
I don't know if it needs to be 350 with this new group, because I was really contemplating trucks that were much larger than I think what we would allow. Because really, it's not even the size we're allowing now as much as it is people with signage, and markings. They're still smaller vehicles.
Could be the, Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, or it could be, something smaller, or that in particular would be pretty large and actually weigh more. But so that's a bad example. But it could be, some other smaller commercial vehicle that's fully wrapped and has like some weird signage on it, and so that person I think needs to pay the fee if they're going to park on the
They
street.
should pay the fee. I don't know if it needs to be $350, so we can work on that.
Well, we're working on that right now.
Okay, I don't think it
Let's
needs to be
finalize this
$350
because
for smaller vehicles.
I would like this not to appear on our agenda anymore after it comes back to us again.
So just so I can summarize, right now by allowing the B plates to park on the street without the commercial marking, we're talking about additional cars on the streets of Evanston. Now by opening from the 8,001 pounds to 10,000 pounds, we're talking about the additional pool of cars who can right now seek the permit to park on the street when right now they cannot park there.
Well, under our current law,
Yes.
and maybe we can finally have law department opine on this, but under our current law, those vehicles could park there, is my interpretation.
And just to chime in quickly, if we have a compelling reason why we don't want pickup trucks on the streets, then I understand that. I think where I'm at is I've had residents reach out and say, what's the difference between my pickup and a large SUV, right? Like, we need to give a reason. Is it because we don't want stuff in the flatbed, for example? Is that the reason? Or is it the width? Is it the height? Is it the length? Like, why? And I don't know if our code clearly communicates that. So I'm willing to have that discussion, but absent a compelling reason why we would treat pickup trucks any different than we would an SUV, a large SUV, especially a Suburban, for example, I can't support it. And I am concerned about 1,000,
The chair will
pickup trucks
recognize
out there, but
Attorney Ozarigbo.
that's what the pilot program is for, to see what happens,
Okay, thank you, Chair, and members of the committee, Deputy City Attorney Michelle Ozaribo. So just to go back a little bit for the few questions that were asked of me. So pertaining to the parking restrictions of commercial vehicles currently under our code in 10-4-5-3, in residential areas, it's unlawful for anyone to park a commercial vehicle. And as Councilmember Reed asked, as a commercial vehicle under our code in 10-4-5-3, commercial vehicle is defined as it is defined in the Illinois Vehicle Code. So to that question, the answer is yes. In our code, we define commercial vehicle based on the Illinois Vehicle Code. Then when you go to the Illinois Vehicle Code, it's 625 ILCS 5/1-11.8. And under that definition of commercial vehicle, I can just share how it's defined in the code. Any vehicle operated for the transportation of persons or property in the furtherance of any commercial or industrial enterprise, for hire or not for hire, but not including a commuter van, a vehicle used in a ride-sharing arrangement when being used for that purpose, or a recreational vehicle not being used commercially. So that's the Illinois Vehicle Code
that's all right.
definition. And then our code would cite too.
All right, thank you. So let's back to the topic of how much we should charge for the
So then,
privilege.
under that definition, simply a vehicle that has a B plate would not classify, just because they have a B plate, as a commercial vehicle, correct?
Well, it says commercial vehicles. Are you asking, can they park in a residential area?
Right. If I just have a pickup that's not used for any commercial purpose, and I have a B plate, under this definition, they could park on the streets.
Right, it has to be for a commercial purpose. So without the commercial purpose, meaning a vehicle operated for the transportation of persons or property in the furtherance of any commercial industrial enterprise, if it's just a pickup truck that's not operating for a commercial purpose, then it would not meet the definition for a commercial vehicle under this definition.
Right, so what
Right,
I'd like to
which
do.
is under, for our current code, Mr. Chair.
Right. Let's again summarize the direction we're giving staff. What we would like the code to reflect is that if you just have a pickup truck that's unmarked, you can park that on the street without any permit or anything whatsoever. If you have a passenger or FP plate with markings, you have to apply for a permit, and that permit would be free. If you have a B plate, which is either a pickup, a van, or a minivan, with markings, you would have to apply for a permit. That permit would have a cost. The number we're talking about is $350. Councilmember Burns. I'm sorry, Councilmember Burns, you are comfortable lowering that amount from $350. Councilmember Reed, you want to keep that at $350?
I'm fine wherever it is. I
Where are you
would
at?
like it to be 350, but I'm fine moving it down if that's.
Where are you at?
350 seems high to me. I'll say 200. Okay, so Lucas, you're hearing a price tag of 200 there. Now let's talk about, keep in mind this is proposed as a one-year pilot project. The number of permits, as currently drafted, it's 200 citywide. There has been some separate discussion about changing that to a limit of 20 per ward, which has been endorsed by Council Member Kelly, who is not present. Staff, we've talked about that. That seems reasonable to you guys. Councilmember
Yeah, that's fine.
Burns.
20
cool
per
with you?
ward, that's fine.
20 per ward. Councilmember Reed, 20 per ward.
No, I think we need to allow just to get the best information. I think we should allow the permits to come in from wherever they come in. So I would support just 150 citywide.
Councilmember Reed says 150 citywide. The other council members are saying 20 per ward. Are you willing to go along with 20 per ward, Councilmember Reed?
No, I think I can't see what the rational basis of limiting 20 per ward is.
So that is not just a first come, basis.
Right. In any case, these would all be first come, first served. We're not
Yeah,
proposing a lottery.
but
Right.
per ward though. So each ward would get 20.
Each ward
That's the difference.
would get up to 20.
And if, I don't want to pick on a ward, but if one ward
Right.
quickly, purchased 50 permits or whatever it is right off the bat.
Right. There have been council members who have expressed serious concerns about this and would prefer a limit in their ward. So 20 per ward gets it done at the council. And I would like to move forward with 20 per ward.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
And whether this should appear as an ordinance or a resolution, since it is intended as a pilot, Attorney Ozarigbo, if you'd like to weigh in on this item, on that question.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Can you repeat that question for
So
me?
there's some discussion, since this is intended as a pilot project, should this appear as a resolution or should it move forward as an ordinance?
So again, Deputy City Attorney Michelle Zaribo. So the Law Department has taken a look at whether a resolution or ordinance would be the best approach. We probably could discuss a little bit further, but if the pilot program moves forward as a resolution, it would not be published in the code. So we would be enforcing the resolution, but if it moves forward as an ordinance, once it's passed as ordinance, it would be the law. So as far as providing notice to our residents, if we provide it as an ordinance, it would be the law. We could enforce it that way. However, if it's a resolution, it's really nowhere for residents to see how, like, say if a resident, for example, received a ticket, if it's in the ordinance, they could see why they received the ticket because we have it spelled out as law for them. If we had it as a
And how have we
resolution, then it
handled
wouldn't.
similar pilot programs in the past?
Oh, well, I would have to check and ask about the prior pilot programs, because unfortunately I haven't been here for those, but I could definitely look into it and let you know how we've handled
Lucas,
prior.
the
If I can
lakefront
get a
pilot
point of
parking.
information.
Chair will recognize Councilmember Reed in just a second. The lakefront pilot program, was that handled as an ordinance, Lucas?
Can I check very quick?
We're getting an indication in the affirmative from
It was the ordinance.
that it was an ordinance. Okay. I'm comfortable moving forward with this as an ordinance if that addresses your concerns.
Yeah,
Uh,
point of
Member Reed.
information. I just will say that this isn't, if we were creating criminal code or something that we would penalize someone, doing that by resolution would be problematic. But the resolution is simply enforcing, directing staff how to engage in enforcement. So there would be no punitive measure. That the resident would have the right to go look up what the code is and what the law is on not parking. The permit is just telling staff, do not ticket vehicles who have this permit. And so it's a different threshold. And because it's not permanent law, I think it's best to engage in through resolution. And maybe we can have corporation
Chair,
counsel after.
just so I can try so you can move forward. I agree in concept that we probably, I would need to hear from other people, but resolution, it makes more sense, it feels like, to do a resolution as opposed to ordinance. I'm happy just to move this forward for it to continue to be an ordinance. I'm not going to fight over this.
And we did the same thing with the COVID-19 restrictions for small businesses, for the third-party delivery services.
But Chair, if you're fine with an ordinance.
Attorney Ozarigbo is requesting to weigh in.
Yeah, if our law department just has one additional thing to say about that.
So, Nicholas Cummings, Corporation Counsel. The resolution is fine. To your point, it's directing staff how to enforce. The problem is the people that it's being enforced against don't have a frame of reference to where to find the code that's being enforced against them, which is the point of the ordinance. And presumably, once, ignorance is not a defense of the law. So once City Council passes an ordinance, it gets published. There's now notice of what is actually being enforced. And so your point is well taken in terms of criminal code ordinances being passed, but the fact of the matter is they have to be published there in order for someone to actually know what's being enforced against them. And that's why, it's probably more effective to do an ordinance the same way we did with the lakefront parking pilot.
But that's enforcing something against them because they're parking, you're going to give them a ticket. This is...
Same thing with the parking for commercial vehicles.
No, you wouldn't be giving them a ticket based on the resolution. In fact, you would not be giving them a ticket based on the resolution. The ordinance would be what we're discussing. The resolution would just be about the pilot program and the fact that we're not going to enforce against people who have the permit. So no harm to the person. Anyone who gets a ticket, you're being ticketed under the ordinance, not the resolution.
Okay, the way that was just explained, it sounds like overkill. Because if there's an ordinance in place that requires people to get a permit, those people will not be ticketed. That wouldn't be necessary for a resolution to not ticket people with a permit.
The chair will recognize Councilmember Ravel.
Well, just for another example of a pilot, when we
Excuse me, gentlemen.
We approved
Councilmember Ravel.
we approved a 2-year pilot to allow Northwestern to have commercial concerts at Welsh Ryan Arena, and that was entered into our code. It's in the zoning.
As an ordinance.
It was all super official. At the bottom, it said this expires December 2021, but it was pretty official.
On the advice of counsel and with the example of two precedents of pilot programs being structured as ordinances, I think it makes sense to move forward in that.
Support this as an ordinance. Let's move forward.
Okay.
We got 2 votes. Let's go.
So we've got direction
Yes,
to
thank you.
staff. It's going to be an ordinance. It's going to be $200. Everything else that we talked about. We still have a motion on the table from Councilmember.
The only other
Reed.
thing is the FP.
Yes, sir.
I don't know what is the reason why someone would get a permit for an FP plate. It's been brought to my attention that FP plates could also be rental vehicles.
Yes.
And so they need to get an FP
So-
plate. They need to get a permit. I know they don't have to pay, but they still need to get a permit if they're going to park. So
If they have no markings, no.
it's only one marking.
If you have a marking,
Okay.
so if you have a commercial, if you have advertising of your company,
FP
on
with
it,
markings.
then you have to.
Then you need to get a permit. Okay.
Yes, but if you rent the car from the enterprise, for example, the FP plate, you don't have to.
That makes sense.
do
Perfect. Thank you.
anything.
And just one last thing, I just want to make crystal clear for the way we've been enforcing this is that I think now, after the discussion today, I'm hoping that the parking enforcement team, there's a clear understanding that a B plate does not mean commercial vehicle. We should not be ticketing people just because they have B plates parked on the street. It should only be if we can demonstrate that there are commercial markings on those vehicles, regardless of what the plate styling is.
Okay, thank you.
Good. That brings us to the end of our
One last thing, Chair, I'm sorry.
agenda.
And I don't know how to resolve this, but one of the issues is that, I have constituents who point to no commercial vehicle parking signs in front of their house, and they don't know what that means. And so I don't know if there's a way to add like code to signs or add signs with code, or we can figure out offline how to do that, but it's not enough just to say no commercial vehicle without letting them know what that is, pointing to the direction where they could see, all right, this is what is a commercial vehicle. I get that all the time. They look at the thing, they're like, it's a pickup truck right there. And they call, and then we ticket. So we need to do something, either the removal maybe, or, add some language about where they can find in the code what constitutes a commercial vehicle. That's all, Chair. Thank you.
All right, so we're not quite done because there is a motion on the table without a second. I think what we want to do is, ideally, in my opinion, move to table this until our next meeting to make the changes that we've talked about. If Councilmember Reed is comfortable amending his motion to that, I think he'll get a second.
Amending my motion to, I never got a second on my motion.
He didn't get a second on his original motion, so no motion on the table then
And so I'll motion to table
until
until.
our next meeting.
So the 27th?
Until the 20, is that the 27th? 2 weeks from now, 27th, yeah.
Okay, I'll motion to table this to the 27th. then.
So moved. Councilmember Reed? I'll second it if you don't want to. Okay. Let's call the roll. I did.
Councilmember Nusma,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there's one other
Sir.
thing. There's one other thing with item A8
Okay.
that was already voted on. The motion that was made and seconded was actually not a proper motion.
Not a proper motion to. All right, let's reconsider item A8. Corporation Counsel has just informed us that the motion made and seconded on item A8 was not a proper motion. My recollection was that motion was to essentially dismiss
Wasn't
this
proper about
item.
it? What wasn't proper about it?
So it's
A motion to dismiss is not a proper motion.
It's the law department's position that the motion to strike A8 was not proper because it was said that this is an administrative change, not a policy change, and so that's why. Oh, sorry, that's not the reason.
To be clear, my motion was
Oh,
to
gotcha.
disapprove. We can move approval or move not approval. I was moving non-approval.
Oh, okay. So the motion was to dismiss. Sorry, this is the reason that the motion was improper was based on our Robert's Rules of Order, that the motion was a motion to dismiss instead of being one of our proper motions. So as far as a motion to lay it on the table, previous question to close the debate, limit or extend, postpone to a certain time, commit or refer, amend, postpone indefinitely. So it was just our position that it was the motion to
So
dismiss.
do
is
we
not a
have to
proper motion.
undo that action, or can we just take the proper action now?
So I didn't hear on that list a motion to approve.
Okay, so we would just, our advice would be to just take a proper motion, just frame it as a different motion
What I would
instead.
suggest then is just a motion to approve, and and you vote against it.
Just point of information, was a motion to approve on that list that you just read there?
No.
That would be a main motion, Councilmember Reed.
And so a motion to not approve is also a main motion too.
That's not what your motion was.
But I'm just clarifying. Is that correct? I'm asking a question.
These are our subsidiary motions, so your main motion could be to vote in favor or move the action. These are the subsidiary motions, so instead of a motion to strike or a motion to dismiss, if you could do one of the other motions.
I
that
move
I
that we not
opposed.
approve. I move that we not approve item A, whatever it was, A8.
Is that an acceptable motion?
Second.
Okay, so the motion now on the table is to disapprove item A8. A vote in the affirmative on this motion will be a vote against this ordinance. Are we comfortable with that?
A vote,
It's the
a
same
yes
thing we did
vote is
last
to
time.
disapprove.
Same thing we did
A
last.
vote to disapprove. So
You say yes, we're saying we want to.
if you're saying yes, it
We're
dies.
not, right, exactly.
Councilmember Newsma.
No,
I'm sorry, I'm going to do it again just so it's on mic. Councilmember Newsma.
no.
Councilmember Burns.
Yes.
Councilmember Reed.
Yes.
Okay, item A8 has been, what is the terminology I should use? It has been disapproved. Disapproved.
Rejected.
Not been approved.
It no longer exists. Okay, there being no further business to come before the committee, I declare the meeting adjourned.